In this video, we are going to go over how to solve simple inequalities using addition and subtraction. If you think back to when we solved equations, we're going to be following pretty much the exact same steps that we did for simple equations. Our first step is going to still be to identify the variable we are trying to solve for. Step 2, we need to identify what is preventing that variable from being by itself, and we need to determine what operation is needed to undo it. Step 3, we need to actually perform that operation. And step 4, we're going to actually graph our answer. So let's look at some examples. Here we have 2 is greater than or equal to a plus 17. We want to get our a by itself. What is preventing him from being by himself is that plus 17. We undo plus 17 by subtracting 17 on both sides of our equal sign, or in this case, inequality. So 2 minus 17 is going to give us a negative 15 is greater than or equal to a. The 17 minus 17 cancels out, so we now have solved our inequality. We just need to graph it. So if you remember when we went over graphing inequalities, we needed to identify whether we needed an open circle or a closed circle. We have a greater than or equals to, so that means we need a closed circle at that negative 15. So here's our negative 15, and we would go ahead and close in that circle. And we want everything negative 15 is greater than the a. So if it helps us, we can switch this around to look at it as a is less than or equal to negative 15. So our a, we want everything that is less than negative 15. So we would want everything on this side here. All of these over here to the left are less than negative 15. So we have our graph of our first example. Let's look at another example. Here we have negative 14 plus m is less than or equal to negative 12. So we need to figure out what we're trying to solve for. I'm trying to solve for m. What is preventing him from being by himself is that negative 14. We undo negative 14 by adding 14. If we add 14 to both sides, cancels out over here. We're left with an m is less than or equal to negative 12 plus 14, which is 2. Now we've solved it, now we just have to graph. So we need to figure out open or closed circle. That's less than or equals to, so it's going to be a closed circle at 2. Here's 2, close in your circle. M is less than 2, less than or equal to 2. So everything less than 2 is over here to the left. So we can draw in our line, and we have completed number 2. Let's look at another example. Here we have 13 is greater than x minus 1. What's preventing the x from being by itself? That negative 1. So we undo negative 1 by adding 1 to both sides. Over here on the left, 13 plus 1 gives us 14 is less than x. Negative 1 plus 1 cancels out. We need to figure out open or closed circle. It does not have the or equals to, so it's going to be an open circle. If it helps you to look at it, you can write it as x is less than the 14. So we need a open circle at 14. And we want everything that is less than that. So that's going to be everything going this way. Let's look at a fourth example. Here we have 1 is less than x minus 10. What's preventing the x from being by itself? That minus 10, undo subtract 10 by adding 10 to both sides. So you get 11 is less than x. or if we want to switch it around, x is greater than 11. Both of those say the same thing. I think it's easier to graph when the x is on the left. We're used to seeing the variable on the left, so I'm just going to write it that way. We need to figure out open or closed circle. We do not have the or equals to part of that symbol, so we're going to have an open circle at 11. And we want x to be greater than. So everything that is larger than 11 is over here to the right. We can color in our graph. And we have completed number 4. Let's look at number 5. Here we have negative 36 is greater than or equal to negative 16 plus p. What's preventing that p from being by itself? That minus 16. You undo minus 16 by adding 16 to both sides. That is going to give us a negative 20 is greater than or equal to p. If it's easier to look with it on the p on the left, go ahead and just write it that way. We need to determine whether we need an open or a closed circle. It has the or equals to part of the symbol, so we're going to have a closed circle at negative 20. So there's my circle at 20. Negative 20, go ahead and fill it in. And we want p is less than that. Everything less than that is over here to the left. So we can draw our graph. Let's look at one last example. Here we have negative 1 is less than or equal to b plus 19. What's preventing the b from being by itself? That plus 19. You undo plus 19 by subtracting 19 on both sides. So now you have a negative 20 is less than or equal to b. That plus 19 minus 19 cancels out. If it helps you to write the b on the left, we can go ahead and do that. So b is greater than or equal to negative 20. Determine whether you need an open or a closed circle. It has the or equals to part of the symbol. So we need a closed circle at negative 20. Here's negative 20. Go ahead and close in the circle. And we want b is greater than. Everything greater than that is over here to the right. So we can go ahead and color in our graph. And we have completed this problem. Hopefully this video has helped explain how to solve simple inequalities when you need to use addition or subtraction.